Right, unmute us both down then. Okay, so good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you may be. We're back today with some more Asterix. Welcome to Asterix and Obelix, all at sea. See, we've got rings in the chat and hops so far. We've been away for a couple of weeks because you were seriously sleep deprived last week thanks to the police.
Yeah, my apologies for that.
To be clear, Noodle wasn't the one in trouble with the old bill.
I wasn't the one in trouble with them, no, but they were nearly in trouble with me after 6.5 hours of the helicopter over where I live.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, so
in much better spirits this week, although still just as sleep deprived, but for totally different reasons.
Yeah, well, I ended up, to be honest, like in the early hours of this morning, I ended up being on 2 live streams. So I was on Neil's like after show. Then I jumped into like an impromptu thing that Jen did this morning as well, like about 3 a.m. this morning.
There's something in the air at the minute. No one's sleeping.
Yeah. So okay, so this one, Asterix and Obelix all at sea. You might see this banner on screen from time to time today. I might even leave it up. I don't know yet. I'll certainly put it up properly in a minute. This has got a lot of it in this one. Although I will say, at the same time, this is nowhere near as bad as the last book we did as well.
It's not, no, and the racism in this one is definitely more the art style, and it's the presence of the pirates rather than anything else, or the presence of an immediate character.
Yeah, there's the pirates, as Tusk asked in the chat about, is this the one with the pirates?
Yeah.
They feature a little heavier in this one than perhaps they normally do. So that's the thing. Now we've obviously what we've done once again with this one is we've posted a link to a New York Times article about which I think somewhat sums up our stance on the racism in these books. And the reason I say is that we've kind of at the same, we don't really want to necessarily go through our whole stance on this again and again. If you want to listen to it, the first 10 minutes or so of Asterix the Gladiator, we go into great detail about this. And then, and we will refer people back to that if needs be, because there's only so many times we can repeat ourselves on this stuff, to be honest, as well.
I will say with this one, unlike last week where we were saying categorically don't show this to your children, this one is definitely more of an example of you can learn things from this poor example and still get some enjoyment from it as an Asterix story. So it is not one to avoid with the kids, although
it's one
if you're not
carefully, and you got to have a conversation. You should have your conversations with the with kids if you are going to show them this one.
And I would say as well, you're not just looking at depictions of African characters in this one. There's a lot of stereotypes in this one, national stereotypes. Some of them we can laugh along with because they're punching up.
Yeah, or at least sideways,
or at least sideways. Some of them not so much.
I mean, the Numidian characters, as always, are hugely problematic.
Yeah.
But it's still an interesting one because this gets a little bit into somewhat slightly into slave revolts and also a little bit into mythology as well.
Yeah, and there's some great little inside jokes in there if you know where to look.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So do you want me to share the screen then, Noodle? Okay.
Cool.
So our book starts
in Julius Caesar's palace in Rome, which is a nice change.
Yeah. He's not in a good mood by the look of it.
He is not in a good mood, is he? He's quite clearly annoyed at someone. And I do like, you idiot, you moron, you half-wit, you great gormless goof. Oh, words fail me, you silly sausage. It's just so childish, but it's fun. I like it.
Yeah.
And then we find out that the soldier superior officer is getting a telling off.
Admiral Crustaceus. I like that one.
Comment. I will say there's quite a few jokes in the early part of this book that our veterans in the audience are going to enjoy. Which you will see. So, soldier talking about paying for the ticket to see the lions in the circus.
Yeah.
And Cleopatra's in Rome. Now, this does date this story because we know Cleopatra and Rome. She wasn't there all the time, but it's large. I think it's pretty irrelevant to the plot that she's there. I think she's just there. Doesn't really do much except make a few quips. So
we did notice in the beginning of this one as well that she's been drawn slightly differently to the way she has been in previous appearances.
Yeah, I mean, I will say, just looking at it, she's a little bit more sexualized than she was previously, but she's a lot less. There's a lot less on the lips and a lot less on the more really motivated caricatures that we've seen.
And she's actually been drawn a little darker as well, I've noticed. Whether that's just this printing on this PDF, I don't know, because sometimes I know the printings vary a little bit, but just on this artwork, it seems just a tad darker than some of the previous.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at her, she's almost the same color as the table next to her, or the seat that she's on. So, and I do like her. We couldn't decide if it was a leopard or a cheetah, but enjoying the idea of Admiral Pure Beef.
Yeah. He said the finest ship in the Roman Navy stolen from under his nose, my own galley.
So Caesar is not a happy boy.
Yeah. And we find out that what happened is that the galley slaves are revolting.
Yeah. Yes, and so are you. Stop beefing. So
there's a little bit. The men are revolting, sort of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The men are revolting. Where have I heard that one before? Is that a Monty Python one? I've heard that.
Or the French are revolting, whatever way you want to.
The French are revolting. That's the one. And of course, they're only mutineers. They'll never pass the Strait of Gibraltar.
Yeah, that's what that place is.
So
he said, "I hope not, or you'll be in dire straits yourself. Get moving. Put some beef into it. I'll sort it." So he's like, "I'll sort everything out, Caesar.
Wonderful Caesar, fine Caesar, and then one for the military here."
Yeah.
Bit of a sticky interview, Admiral? Vice Admiral. You're a moron, a half-wit, a great gormless goof, and you better get that galley back or you'll be in dire straits yourself.
That's you're familiar with the thing that shit rolls downhill?
Yeah. It really does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And then Caesar and Cleopatra having their discussion. I do like that she tells him he's the laughing stock of the ancient world.
I like that. He said, if word of this gets out, a bunch of slaves stole my own galley, I'll be the laughing stock of the entire. "Oh, you are already." He says, "What do you mean?" "Well, those ghouls
Well,
that are still holding."
And this is a nice little one here. Look, you can leave the past history of the Gallic Wars to me.
Yeah, I love that.
Obviously,
I did like that joke.
yeah, Caesar did
Now,
famously write his own history of the Gallic Wars.
I'm going to put up the banner now. As I said, with this today, we'll try and keep this stuff off screen as much as we can, but it is kind of somewhat unavoidable today. So I'm going to put the banner up for a while with this one, so people, if they are just tuning in, just
what I'll do is I'll scroll down so you can see the panel, and then I'll scroll back up so that's off the screen.
Yeah,
you've got an idea of what's going on there. So, I mean, obviously, this entire plot is based very loosely around the Spartacus revolt, which started in the Roman ships. So it's quite fun in that regard, although obviously it's completely historically inaccurate. It didn't happen under Caesar. It shows how
the banner there is actually covering up the character nicely there this time, but
yeah. So it's a nice. It gives an overall idea of the plot. It takes the basic premise of the Spartacus revolt and runs with it. So all of this, I'm only going to say this once, none of this is historically accurate, like at all.
Absolutely
the only
not.
Thing that's historically accurate, and is kind of, I like this. All the slaves who were revolting here, there's no differentiation in race or nationality.
No.
Which is exactly how Roman slavery was.
I will say that the Spartacus revolt was quite a number of years before this. His events in this would be. I mean, I think Caesar was around during them, but he was a very young man at this point, or he certainly hadn't made his reputation at the time of the Spartacus.
Revolt. I mean, Spartacus died in 71 BC.
Yeah, so we're talking about 20 years before these are supposedly set.
Yeah.
I will say when we get to see him, he is drawn ever so slightly like Kirk Douglas as well.
He is, yeah.
But I should probably mention yes, so Caesar would have been a much younger man and hadn't really made his reputation at the time of the start. But the two guys who I suppose finished off the Spartacus revolt, not Pompey the Great, and more notably Marcus Crassus, did form the first triumvirate with Caesar. They were these three big, powerful men in Rome, and they kind of ruled Rome between the three of them. Although Crassus, I think, at the time of the triumvirate, was a little bit older and whatever, so it kind of became down to sort of Caesar and Pompey.
Yeah, I mean, I will say, if there's anything, there's two things we can learn. We can say with absolute certainty that we learn from history. One, never start a war with Russia in the winter. And two, never enter a triumvirate with Julius Caesar.
No.
Neither end well. So it's one of those. But I will say as well, just while we're on the topic, the movie Spartacus is about as accurate as this book.
Yeah, pretty much.
So again, take it with a pinch of salt, please. Just read the Wikipedia article if you want something more accurate.
The TV series Spartacus is even worse when they're trying to do the 300 style.
Spartacus was a Greek.
Yeah.
He was a Thracian, as far as we know.
Yeah. The only thing I'll say about the TV series that they do give a little bit more of a role to Crixus, who was the sort of other leader of that revolt, who kind of gets overlooked by history a little bit. It was Spartacus and Crixus both who led that revolt, though Crixus was killed sometime before Spartacus.
I will point out as well, Spartacus has also got a little bit of a reputation that he might not necessarily be entirely deserved. There are serious doubts as to whether Spartacus had any goal other than his own freedom. and the freedom of his small
circle.
Well,
the thing that gets me, if it was the freedom thing, that they could have gotten out of the reach of Rome quite easily. That they had defeated all the armies and headed north, and literally just had to cross into like Cisalpine Gaul or whatever, and they would have been out of the reach of Rome. Or but then they then decide that they're going to go right the way back down the Italian peninsula and plunder again. So it's kind of they had their chance to get away, and then ended up and then they were defeated right in the toe of the boot of Italy eventually. So
I think it's one of the rare examples of a time when people kind of
ring us a question here.
Yeah, no, thank you. Let's do
2001. Let's do Full Metal Jacket without a doubt.
Let's do Full Metal Jacket instead. That's more fun.
Maybe Clockwork Orange.
Maybe, depending on how we feel. So yeah, with there's a lot of different debates on what actually happened there. There were a lot of misdirected orders. There was very little discipline in the revolting forces. There's some arguments that some of them went back thinking they could, make money. There's all kinds of different theories and things that float around the place. The problem is the Roman army is probably one of the few armies in history that was disciplined and large enough to overcome a small guerrilla force on its own land. And a lot of the problem is that the slaves who followed Spartacus were not on their own land. They didn't know the topography. They didn't know the geography. They were flying blind. They didn't know where they were going.
I mean, it really is really to give the Romans as many problems as they did shows a great degree of leadership by Spartacus and Crixus, to be honest.
It does. The fact that they made it that far, it's for me, comparatively, the story of Spartacus, the closest thing I would compare it to for a modern equivalent would probably be The Great Escape. Including the outcome, which was not particularly pleasant in either case.
I mean, because I suppose the elements of truth that there are in the movie that they did crucify a lot of the survivors of that last battle along the Via Appia and so on. Although I think most people believe Spartacus actually died in that battle. That is the common held, and certainly the whole time Spartacus thing definitely didn't happen.
That didn't happen. No.
Not a great bit of cinema.
As much fun as it is to cry out that we are Brian, it didn't happen. There's also the tale of I am a Roman citizen, which comes from the same period of history. Again, likely it's more someone making up the plot to add a bit of flavour than anything else. Because that little story has an entire political background and a reason why it became such a prevalent and well-known story. But anyway, moving on, because we've gone for about 10 minutes on this now.
So we got what we got is the we've got all the slaves of different nationalities there, and there's
nothing I can do about this one.
Yeah, this is what I mean. This is why I'm putting the trigger warning up, because there's so many images. It's going to be difficult to sort of skip over all of them, and we'll try to keep it to a minimum. But this is why I'm putting the banner up today, just in case anybody comes in halfway through this and wonders what's going on. But I do want to point out that you go down a couple of panels there to actually get a look at Spartacus himself. It's if you go down there, right? You see what I mean about him being drawn a bit like Kirk Douglas.
Yeah, he's a Kirk Douglas. Yeah. That's definitely what that's based off. So they've all decided, they're all in the same boat, and they're brainstorming to see what they're doing. I will say with this, every character in it is a national stereotype. It's not just the Numidian. The issue I take, and we were discussing this before the stream, the issue I take is that when with the Numidian, it's punching down.
Yeah.
Because it's racist as well as just
Yeah.
anti a particular.
I mean, like the Britain there is like, I say, old boy, time for a spot of the old brainstorming. What? You know, that's that's a harmless joke. That's a harmless joke at the Brits. You know.
Yeah, the German mixing up his sentence structure because German has got a different sentence structure to Latin is again. That's fair, ish. The Spaniard, I'm not particularly keen on the whole mustache thing, but other than that, again, he calls people hombre and he wears yellow.
He's kind of almost got the Matador look about him, really, as well.
A little bit of the Matador look going. So they're all deciding where they want to go now, and of course, they're all voting for their own homes.
But it's, I think, the thing with the Numidian, not just the way it's drawn but it's the fact that they've drawn them as well always with the leopard skin sort of gear and whatever. It is such a stereotype.
It's stereotypical, and it's not. It's not appropriate.
So they're
one inch for for Zeus's sake, and then this one. There are a few puns in this one, so just quickly, you've got Africa's sunny fountains roll down their golden sand. Hispania's the place; it's Spain, fully obvious. But And Lusitania, we'd better find a port again because Lusitania is Portugal.
Yeah.
We've got, even if Caesar pursued us to Belgica, he might meet his Waterloo there.
Yeah.
And now I've got it stuck in my head. Thank you.
Heim, there's no place like Heim.
Yeah. So again, they're all fairly harmless stereotypes.
They're really trying to figure out where to go, and then the Briton actually points something out, and it turns out he's related to a character that we previously in Asterix in Britain. So my uncle, Anticlimax in Britain, told me about some indomitable Gauls in an Armorican village who knocked the Romans for 6 with a magic potion. Jolly good wheeze, what?
And then Spartacus is saying, if that's so, let's make for the Gaulish village. Everyone agree? We agree.
Yeah.
So it's quite, there's obviously a joke in there somewhere about the Greek and democracy, I think.
Yeah.
And off they go.
Being a lefty, I could have baked some jokes about the Spartacus League in this as well.
Yes, we could do. It's not, huh?
It's not.
So somewhere off in Gaul now, back in our little village, and Asterix and Obelix are eating as usual.
Obelix is having nightmares again. A look of it. Wasn't this a joke last week? He's having nightmares.
It was, yeah, because he's eating too much before bed.
And
his nightmare is that Caesar's going to withdraw the garrison from the village.
Yeah.
And Asterix saying, no more than 3 balls before bed. That's what's making you have nightmares. And then Asterix says, well, even if it did come true, we might finally get peace with honor. And we get Obelix suddenly being, I'm going to call it blindly patriotic.
Come on, dogmatics. You've got nothing to do with these policies of appeasement. It's like, I think anyone would, see, this is the funny thing, anyone would be very, very happy for an occupying army to bugger off there, wouldn't they? Go away. But Obelix wants them there.
Yeah, Obelix wants them there because
Obelix wants them there. It's like, this is fun.
Yeah, it's fun.
This is his fun.
Obelix missed his calling as a mercenary. Like, that Venn diagram of do something you love, do something that pays well.
Yeah.
For Obelix, mercenary is right in the middle, and he just never. Yeah. So.
Jen's, I am the very modern Roman citizen.
And then Obelix here, you are insulting the memory of Vercingetorix.
Yeah.
Um,
I love what you say. Vercingetorix is very much a it is a sort of national icon in France now. He's been very much built up. I mean, not far from Elysia now. There's a massive statue of Vercingetorix put up. But strangely, it's not been. I can't remember many film. The only film I remember is one where Christopher Lambert played in, but I don't remember. I've seen so many films where
references made to him in The Eagle. And I think there's also a reference made to him in one of the other generic ancient Roman soldier tries to invade Scotland thing.
I used to have that book, The Eagle of the Ninth, somewhere. I don't know what happened to it. It was one of the other books in the same series I had as well. I forget what it was called now, but
I forget which stream it was on, but I definitely have been on the rant before about how that's not historically accurate and how it's not viable.
Yeah,
and we know exactly what happened to the Ninth.
We talked we talked quite at length about what happened to the Ninth Legion.
It was in Asterix in Britain.
Very well may have been, yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, the Romans were
about to attack.
And
I love the fact that good thing the Romans have got more sense than you, Mr. Asterix.
Yeah. The garrison all drawn up on the other side of the forest.
Yeah. He's just made, funny enough, get a fixes made just a couple of things of magic potion. So
everyone's queuing up to power up.
Yeah. Something Obelix. Something wrong with Obelix.
I do love how this magic potion has gone from being just something you drink and then you have superhuman strength to looking like something out with Dragon Ball Z. Yeah. I think the imagery for the way he reacts to the potion here is more fed off the films. Because wasn't it Asterix at the Olympics that made him look like that? When he took
Obelix is in a sulky mood still.
Queuing up, trying to get away with it as usual.
Yeah. So he's warned intense time and time again that there's going to be some dangerous side effects here if he has any more.
And he wouldn't know how to fix it.
Yeah. She's going to become a point of this story, to be honest.
Yeah. And then we have, this is Auto Druid, Obelix is missing.
Yeah.
He's probably gone off in a sulk, but I'm sure he'll be first to go for the Romans, so no problem.
So we've got a Romans outside and legionaries. I'm here to put some backbone into you to discipline. And so it looks to me like the Roman legionaries who are there know what's going to happen.
Yeah,
but they've got this new they've got this new commanding officer who wants to make a name for himself, and
and it looks like he's trying to put them through the maneuvers, doesn't it? Parade and all the rest of it, parade maneuvers.
I mean, he hasn't resorted to decimating them yet, but
no, the Gauls are going to sort that out for him, I think.
Yeah, well, because you can mention that I believe in the Spartacus revolt, it's believed that Crassus actually decimated some of his legions to
the ones who lost.
Yeah, the one it was sort of because it was a punishment for legions that had shown like cowardice or whatever in battle, and I think a lot of it was he was trying to send a message to his troops that, look, I'm more scary than Spartacus, so shape up.
Yeah. And the thing is, that's kind of what decimation was about. Everyone thinks decimation was random.
No.
It wasn't. Or it was as... It had a veneer of randomness to it. But the men who would be killed during the decimation would have been handpicked.
Yeah, they
would have been the ones who had shown cowardice.
Yeah.
Or otherwise not.
I think everyone just thinks it's they lined them up, and when every 10th man gets beaten to death by his colleagues.
That's not how it worked.
Yeah.
And the soldiers, what a lot of people on film who've seen films as well don't understand, decimation was not the officer giving an order and the guy getting an arrow through the head or something like that.
I'll take the banner off for a little
Decimation
bit.
was one soldier gets called out at a time and the rest of the soldiers beat him to death. It was a nasty, nasty way to go. And he was essentially being beaten to death for being a traitor. So it would not have been random.
And it's very I mean, in a way, in a way, because you don't normally, it's not it's not normally, it's what you call good practice to kill 10% of your own force, your own army in a
yeah, but it's almost like I hate to say it because we're talking about human beings, but it's almost like a culling of the weaker. It's cutting the dead off, the dead weight off. It's not
with the idea that it's going to make the rest of them fight harder.
It sets an example. It does set an example, and not only that, it unifies those that are left because they've all killed one of their own together.
It's like maybe there's different sort of ideas of like in the ancient worlds and what I mean, if you go back a bit further with the Spartans, sometimes you were considered a coward if you'd survived the battle that everyone else had been killed in, you know.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I mean, famously the laconic phrasing of you know, with your shield or on it, my boy.
Yeah.
Is the famous sayings of Spartan mothers before they went into battle.
Yeah.
You know, either come back with your shield because you were able to carry it back because you didn't run, or come back being carried back on it as a dead war hero.
I mean, there was I'm trying.
So it's. I mean, we don't know for certain if that was ever said outright.
From what we do know,
highly likely.
There's some quite sharp barbs attributed to Spartan women, especially mothers.
Yeah, no, the Spartan women and their laconic wit are second to none. But a lot of laconic wit is highly questionable in its sources.
There is, I mean, I think there was. I mean, there's one famous story of a Spartan or something who's a warrior who'd supposedly shown cowardice in battle, and the mother like pulled her skirt up and basically told him to crawl back where he came from, or something like that. Now, whether that's true or not, it's
that's the whole. This is the whole thing about laconic wit. Is the whole you know, if I defeat you, I will make you all slaves, and they reply with the word "if."
Yeah,
you know, a lot of it is it's flavor to add to the story, and the historians did that. But it tells us how other Greeks and other Greek city-states viewed the Spartans. So it doesn't necessarily give us an insight of what the Spartans were actually saying, but it does give us an insight into the attitudes that were prevalent and the prevalent opinions of the Spartans at the time. So it's the equivalent of, you know, it on social media these days, if you do this, you are Italian.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean Italians do this, really. What it means is the rest of the world has attributed that stereotype to Italians.
Yeah.
And if historians see that social media in the future, that's what they're going to think. That we think Italians do that. Why do we think that? Do we think that they move their hands a lot and they're animated?
Which is rather sad because the Italians have been, ever since World War II, have been made to look like cowards or whatever in humour because of which is bullshit, you know. It's but like because you get the old joke like, what's the difference between an Italian and toast? You can make soldiers out of toast or whatever, and it's like, I'd say to people, you do realise the Romans are from Italy, right? For fuck's sake, you know.
Yeah.
And I will always say on that as well, anyone really bothers to do their history of World War II and really look into that, you would not blame those Italian soldiers in the desert for surrendering to the British, who were being marched to, they knew were being marched to fucking death because of Mussolini's bloody ego, quite frankly.
Yeah, when you've got poor leadership, it can't be helped that you're going to surrender. That's nothing to do with the quality of Italian soldiers and everything to do with Mussolini's ego.
That'd be the same with British or Americans or whoever. If you were being led, if you're being led that badly and being known you're being sent to your death for no good reason whatsoever, it just people's will to actually fight is gonna be.
There was no, they had no morale. That was the problem. They didn't believe in what they were fighting for. And there's a great quote. I think it comes from an American general in Vietnam, but I can't remember the name off the top of my head. Who said, I'm not sure. He said, "1 volunteer is worth 10 conscripts."
Yeah.
Because 1 volunteer will fight harder than 10 conscripts.
Yeah.
Because the volunteer wants to be there.
Yeah, the only one I really know from Vietnam is William Westmoreland, but
yeah, that's
maybe. I don't know. Anyway,
I don't think it was Westmoreland.
Yeah. It's just the only one I off the top of my head I can name. But anyway,
I can't remember. I don't even think it was Vietnam, to be honest. It might have been one from the Second World War.
Yeah.
The Italians fought hard, as Chad's put in the chat there. The Italians fought hard, but they weren't being led in the right direction.
Yeah.
And that's a problem for any army. So, yeah, just to set the record straight on that, the Italians
absolutely right,
were fighting. And, you know.
Yeah, it's just a horrible bloody joke that people. To be honest, I've noticed in America they had the similar joke about the French now.
Yeah,
it's like
I mean, to be fair, we have a similar joke about the French in Britain, but they've not lost any more wars than we have.
They've kicked our ass a few times as well.
Exactly. So it's one of those, you know, check your own history before you start pointing the finger anywhere.
And I'd often say, you think the French are like soppy or pansy or whatever? Look at what they fucking did in Algeria, you know, and look what they did to their own people, like the far right groups in the 60s who were trying to assassinate de Gaulle, like the OAS.
I mean, look what they did only a couple of years ago. They brought the whole country to a standstill to get a rising minimum wage.
Yeah. And
they're not soft people.
They almost started a war with New Zealand because they were pissed at Greenpeace.
Exactly.
So yeah. So yeah, people might want to. So I just say, let's just say certain Americans and British may want to reevaluate their assessment of the French.
Yeah, I do think as well Americans just need to reevaluate their opinions on the Second World War entirely. If you think that you're the reason the Second World War ended, go read a book, please.
Yeah.
But yeah, moving on.
Anyway,
so we've got this slant to attention, but the goals are coming and bada bing, bada boom.
You know what's going to happen. They just get knocked. These Romans just get knocked over like bowling pins, don't they, all the time? In there. So he goes and asks him why the full scale attack. You know, so we were already rehearsing the parade. You know, to welcome Admiral Crustatius. To go and tell him, you know, no parading around here.
Yeah, we do it.
And then you go by
typical.
So much of the strength of the Roman army, you know.
Yeah, these little quips from the soldiers. I'm gonna pass the comment that there's a great comic series, American comic series, called Terminal Lance, and if you like these kind of quips from these soldiers, have a look at it because some of the strips are very good, and very funny.
Yeah.
So Yeah, if you're into that kind of humour, it's very much a comic strip for the military by the military. So it's that kind of sense of humour. But yeah, and not sponsored, just something I'm aware of. And then we've got the goals on their way, and it's not like Obelix to pass up such an opportunity, and now they're getting walled.
And now there's a problem here. Obelix, yeah, has drunk the magic potion, a whole bloody cauldron of it.
Yeah, so get a fix
and
made.
Been turned to stone.
Yeah.
I mean, he's been warned a number of times that there was going to be side effects if he drunk this.
And so these are your side effects.
Yeah.
Well,
I'll say that last week I was feeling the side effects of the COVID vaccine a little bit, but this puts things into perspective.
Yeah, a little bit. I've had stiff and aching joints before, but I have been able to move them. So now they've got to figure out what's going on with this.
Yeah.
And some of the puns here are quite fun.
Yeah, but they get told off about this by Asterix and Getafix. So show them a bit of respect. And Getafix says, "No more jokes in dubious taste. Carry him to his hut while I gather some herbs. I'm going to try to attempt the impossible."
Yeah.
And they try some.
Yeah. So
I mean, you're kind of worried a bit when you hear this banging and chiseling away. Do you think they're not actually doing something to him? Are they? No, they're just carving in the way so they can get him through the door with his own hut.
So yeah. A good thing we're still feeling the effects of the magic potion. So they set him down and then build the door back up. Okay, so and then put him on a bed.
So Getafix is going to try and come up with an antidote for this.
So night falls and everyone is deeply upset. Lights are on in only 2 huts.
Yeah.
One the druid, and the other is poor Obelix's house with Asterix sitting up with him.
Keeping a vigil with him.
Yeah.
So he's trying to give him some different new potion, but it's not working. He says, "I've never had a case like this before, but we must
leave no stone unturned." So much for have some respect, eh?
Yeah.
So they're trying, and you know it's getting desperate when the druid's telling him to pray. When the druid's because
pray to the gods.
They invoke religion a little bit, but never blatantly.
Okay, hold on. Let me put the banner up again. We got some coming up. And this is one thing that does piss me off again with these. Why are the Numidians always the ones carrying these fat, lazy Romans who can't bloody walk for themselves?
Probably because they're the only people strong enough to do it.
Yeah. But this is what I said. This is,
But again, that does feed into the sort of racist stereotypes of black men being physically intimidating. So it's not. I can see what it's trying to do, and you could potentially argue it both ways. But it is not accidental that the Numidians are drawn like that. Are drawn like freaking brick houses. That's not an accident. Romans have gone into decline already, have they? Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
In fact, so he's saying a handful of Gauls did this to you, and he's like, they are a handful, you know. So
yeah.
so they really start. I suppose they start talking about now why he's up here. That the slave is the slaves who basically stolen Caesar's pride and joy, his galley, his own personal galley, and I suppose he's worked out that they're going to try and come here.
Yeah, I mean, where else are they going to go?
Yeah. So the idea is, as soon as they come ashore, we'll grab them and we'll get the boat. You know, that's the
get the boat back. The idea.
Although he's actually kind of thinking that might not be
the best idea.
He said, "I'll have to persuade the Gauls to hand those mutineers over," and he's like, "That might not work."
Yeah. So now they're deciding to all the different tricks they're going to try.
Impedimenta brings them a nice boar.
Yeah, boar to eat, and the smell does nothing.
And she's goes off in a heart,
village, even though she says so herself.
Yeah, and then they really are bringing. Then they really bring out the big guns here.
Yeah,
this is the girl Obelix has always had the crush on.
Yeah,
and that gives the so it's the whole
Sleeping Beauty
type attempt here,
which doesn't work.
Yeah, doesn't work. She goes off in a bit.
Yeah. Now back on the Roman galley.
Yeah. So again, I've left the banner up, haven't I? Because this is where it gets like I said, we're trying to keep it down to a minimum with these panels, but there's so many of them, it's really difficult to avoid.
Yeah.
So this is why we warned people earlier.
So would they know the village they're looking for? Because it's the only one with a hut at the top of a tree.
Yep.
Useful. And again, we've got our pirate in the crow's nest and mutineers coming into land. So there's a galley and then there's the slave ship.
I'm noticing something with this, because with the pirates as well, the Numidian's always the one in the crow's nest.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm reading into that a little bit. I don't know.
I think there's an argument to be made.
Well, I know I'm
not particularly inclined to give the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, well, I know one time in some American arenas when segregation was still a thing, and you generally knew that the should we say the black customers were not going to get the best seats in the house, that it was generally referred to as the crow's nest for that reason.
Yeah, in various theatres and things.
Yeah, in certain states or whatever, where like sporting arenas, those sorts of things.
Yeah. So again, I'm not particularly inclined to think that is an accident.
It's difficult. As I said, unfortunately, it's gotten very difficult to grant Adeso any charity thus far with all the books we've gone through now.
Yeah. So the prearranged signal to tell them in Aquarium that they're arriving.
Yeah.
Is to set the boat on fire.
Well, I can see what they're doing. He's trying to do the whole thing with the torches or whatever.
Yeah.
And he's caught the sails and so do you sacrifice a whole galley every time you send a signal, Captain?
Quite some signal.
Yeah, just so.
So off we go. While Spartacus has arrived in our village and is pleading refugee to vital statistics.
Yeah, he's like basically asking for sanctuary here.
Yeah.
And even with
I think he's trying to be a bit of a Statue of Liberty going on here, isn't he?
Yeah, he is a bit. He's trying to do the whole.
I think this is a great commentary on it. It's a great visual commentary on it, I think. that he falls over as he's speaking. Slips and falls. Not quite living up to the ideals he's touting there.
Yeah.
And then I don't need anyone else to make me look ridiculous.
Yeah, it's so Getafix is, must meet Ralsevich. I'll dole out more magic potions. So he's going to help them. They are going to help them.
Yeah,
and
they're going to take Caesar's galley so the Romans can't get it back.
Yeah.
And Spartacus thinks it's soup.
Yep. And now he sees them carrying the ship aboard the shore.
Yeah.
On the Romans,
what a miracle. Poseidon, for those who aren't aware, the Greek deity of the oceans and horses.
Yeah.
And
then by Neptune, what a cheek, which is same god, near enough.
Yeah, he's the Roman. So it's the Greek versus Roman there. A bit of fun. Yeah. And everyone and those on the boat feel quite carried away. So the Romans are off to warn their admiral. Again, for those who are not aware, this is not what you think it is. I'm aware that this particular image has a modern similar image. It's not what you think it is. That is a Roman salute.
We've been. I mean, I know we've been through this a number of times, but it's generally because I know we've had one or two newer people come into these streams as well. That let's just say certain regimes from the 20th century actually kind of stole their one from the Romans.
Yeah. Along with a lot of other imagery and the aesthetics.
I'm pretty sure it was Mussolini because Mussolini was obsessed with actually rebuilding the Roman Empire. That was his big, wacky, crazy dream.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason a lot of those countries they use the IKEA as their symbols. Because those countries are where the old Roman Empire used to be, and that's been carried down, and then it was turned into a fascist or neo-fascist symbol.
Ring says repurposed by asshats, as Ring says.
Yeah, that's putting it mildly, I think. But yeah, by all the gods of Hades, I hope you took care of to anchor your own ship. Well, so.
We went up in flames as a prearranged signal.
Yeah.
I hope you enjoy the circus, Captain.
Yeah, I hope you. Yeah, obviously that's a threat there to send him back to Rome.
And there's good news and bad news now.
Obelix is hungry, which is always good news.
Because it means Obelix is up. However, Obelix has lost a bit of weight, shall we say?
He's lost a bit of everything. Getafix appears to have inadvertently created a potion of youth.
Yeah.
So an Obelix gets to try it first.
So on one hand, they've got Obelix. He's no longer He's no longer been turned to stone, but he's now a kid,
3 years old. He's reverted to childhood.
Yeah, and as we'll see, there's some more side effects as well.
Yeah. See how thin poor Obelix has got. It's appalling.
Yeah. So it's just, you just got to think, you just return to childhood. You know, so this is what comes with getting greedy. But I don't like it. I don't even want to eat boars and thump Romans, same as usual. Calm down. I'm sure we'll be able to fix it. So first they have to give them. They have to get some clothes for him.
Yeah. So Mrs. Geriatrix is going to make him some clothes.
Yeah.
And he's not pleased when she calls him diddums.
Yeah. They don't seem to realise some people don't seem to realise it's actually Obelix.
Yeah.
Funny thing is, you remind me of poor Obelix. Nothing like his fat, of course.
He's not fat. He's just
not
well
fat.
covered.
He's just well covered. So we got a kind of mini Obelix coming out now.
And Geriatrix playing the stereotypical grumpy old man.
Yep.
And rose balls for Obelix, and he can only manage one.
He's like, I can't even eat 3 balls at a sitting. And
he gets a kiss from Panacea for his trouble.
Yeah, feeling better now.
Apparently so.
Little bit.
Little bit.
Now it comes the real problem. Goes to grab a menhir.
And
Obelix has lost his strength.
Yeah.
Now we've got a massive problem. Now bear in mind that Obelix is the he is like the nuclear deterrent of this village. If all else fails, they've still got Obelix.
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen him
well aware that Obelix can take on a legion.
Handedly batter a legion.
Yeah, easily.
We've seen that happen.
So
it was always one of those things that even if something happened to Getafix or whatever, they always had Obelix to fall back on. Let me remove the banner. Let me remove the banner for a little bit, actually. But
the Romans are now looking for a hostage.
Yeah.
Well, guess where this is going to go? Obelix has wandered off into the woods in a huff, and they've found him.
Yeah, and he's tried to fight the Romans, and they're just like
they're laughing at him.
Yeah.
They don't particularly want to take a child hostage, but they have their orders.
But Dogmatic still manages to get a bite in, though.
Yeah, he gets a couple of ankles.
Yeah, but poor Dogmatics gets blooming
gets a kick.
He has a luck. I tell you what, he had a lucky escape with that Pelham there, actually.
Yeah, he did. Although
it's a whack on the head. So...
Yeah, he does take a bit of a beating, does Dogmatics here, but he gets as good as he gets. In all fairness.
Yeah. That means he's like, oh, Asterix straight away realizes he's in trouble here.
Yeah, has been knocked out, so they take Obelix. So Dogmatics runs home. Just Deus ex Dogmatics here. He's behaving like that. Must mean Obelix is in danger. Well, no, it might just mean he's hungry, Asterix.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's
and
one
yes,
of
Ring, you are correct. You are correct, Ring. Dogmatics is best boy.
Dogmatics is best boy. Yes, Dogmatics is good pupper. So here we go.
Oh yeah, I better put the banner back up as well. Just seen it.
He's made potion, and now all these people who've come to them as refugees are going to take it as well. The visitors. I mean, the one thing I do like, as badly as it's drawn, all of these characters are treated as equals throughout this.
Yeah.
I just don't particularly like the way the artwork depicts it. So Dogmatics is going to lead them straight to it, and of course, it leads them straight to the Roman camp.
Yeah.
And everyone's in.
Do we want to cover that joke or not, Noodle? That's coming up. Up to you. This is a problematic one, I think.
Which one? The
I'm not racist joke.
yeah, no. There's a joke here. Just to give you a quick description of what it is: the Numidian character chasing a Roman soldier, and the Roman soldier complaining, "But I'm not racist," as if to say, "Why are you chasing me? I'm not racist." Probably best to skip that panel if you've.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it's there. Just be aware. It's there.
Yeah. Yeah. Although to be fair, the Numidian character does give a good comeback of "You're not fit for any race at all."
Yeah.
So it just irritates me that the only real acknowledgement of a non-white character we get in this book is this one panel.
Well, there's another one later.
Yeah, there's another one later on. But it wouldn't be out of place in a B-rate 90s comedy. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
So, sure enough, they've got Obelix on the Admiral's ship, chained up. Poor Obelix. And he's crying for Asterix, and Asterix is kicking off at home. Spartacus is ready to help.
Jules, do you want to keep going for a couple of minutes? I need to get some painkillers. So.
Yeah. And then what's happened now is Getafix has given Asterix a god of potion, and also filled a barrel with it that they're going to take with them because he can't brew anymore while he's on the voyage. So they're going to keep that away from the drinking water to be on the safe side on the ship. And off they go, high speed. And someone has an idea. Getafix has an idea, but he's not going to tell them until he's rescued Obelix. And then we have he's been kept prisoner, been given bread and water, but he doesn't want bread and water. He wants bowl with noodles. And of course, the Roman general doesn't like this, but is convinced that if this kid is our only bargaining counter, it's probably best to keep him on side and keep him well fed. To which the Roman general summons his chef Gluttonous and the young Gaul, and says he'll cure this barbarian of his bad taste. Now, these recipes that the chef recites here, whole come off caterpillars preserved in acacia honey, followed by a pan of earthworms fried in castor oil, cow's udders cooked plain or in a sauce. Those they sound like they could probably be Roman recipes. There are some weird ones. And then we have the comment of we don't pick out on boring meat like that by Apicius. Now, Apicius is a famous chef in ancient Rome. Wrote one of the earliest cookbooks we have historically. He was a bit of a Heston Blumenthal, a bit of a maverick. Try anything once kind, gourmet meals, rare dishes, rare ingredients. But he basically had a reputation of he'll eat anything once. And if it didn't kill him, it went in his cookbook, or he figured out a way to put it in his cookbook. So when the chef is saying, no boring meats for him, that's a direct thing to that. You can actually, I think there's a translation of the cookbook on Project Gutenberg if you're interested. Worth a look at, if only if you want to creep yourself out a little bit, because some of the dishes are, let's say there's a reason they're not in any modern cookbooks. And so here we go. So pull into port and find Obelix a boar because he wants wild boar. So they've left the English Channel, have Asterix and Getafix, and now they're riding the Seine, and they haven't seen a sail on the horizon, which is not normal. While the Admiral's galley is only just leaving Brest, where it was hidden from sight. So they've gone in entirely the wrong direction. But they've caught Obelix a boar and boiled it. And he's not pleased. He wanted it roasted. Which really they should have asked before they cooked it. Let's be honest here. And the chef, not too much for an artist like him, he's throwing in his apron. He's had enough. And the Roman general there, I'll murder him, I'll strangle him, and he has to be held back by his own men from killing poor little Obelix, who's just hungry and wants something taste of home. Again, racist imagery coming up. Is that still on there? Yes, it is. The sail ahoy right ahead. Roman ship ahoy. So obviously Asterix and the revolters have found the Roman ship. I'll see what last as Getafix puts it. And obviously the pirates, but now we find out it's the pirates who think it's Caesar's galley.
I'm back, Noodle.
Cool.
Yeah, so let me get up to we're at the I see the pirates there, Ave Caesar.
So yeah, this entire thing for a little bit becomes a bit of a chicken and egg race. A little bit of circular logic going.
I've left the trigger warning up because, as I said, it's difficult to avoid it because there's so many in this book.
Yeah. So Asterix and Getafix on their ship take out the pirates.
Yeah.
And they're not pleased. It's a little tough. Usual puns about the ship going down. The Roman sail right behind us must be behind time too.
Mm-hmm.
It can't be the Admiral's galley that's ahead of us. Roman sail right ahead, Admiral. So the Admiral spotted them now. They've overtaken them somewhere.
So they recognise the Admiral's galley. That's Caesar's galley, the Gaul's galley. So, yeah.
So, they're basically chasing each other in circles at this point. So they board and mount, and the Roman general tries to order the slaves to defend them.
Yeah.
To which this one replies, "We're only immigrant slave workers. Your internal disputes are none of our concern."
Yeah.
Amuses me a little bit. And then they've got their big fighter who's scared of this little titch who can't.
Bang.
Man of God. Yeah.
So we're going down. They've found Obelix, and you're all right. Just a bit hungry.
Yeah, and Asterix decides he's going to make the most of this and give Obelix a hug. And poor Obelix, you think not, Asterix? It's like he really hopes he can be healed and fixed.
Yeah. Romans prepare to get your deserts for taking a defenseless child hostage.
Yeah. And Obelix says they have to eat the boiled boar.
I love Obelix's thing. I still find it difficult to realise it's me he means.
Yeah. So they make them eat the boar, and they're not happy. Look at this. Yeah. And the chefs added a few nice plump slugs marinated in currant juice. Again, Roman recipes. Proceed with caution if you try and cook any of them.
Okay, so now we've the pirates have kind of come aboard now, and you weren't going to just leave us here, were you? And he's like, I'll tell you what, as a compensation, we're going to actually give you Julius Caesar's galley and all on board. And what will I get out of that? He says, Caesar will be so glad to recover his galley, his admiral and vice admiral. He'll pay a nice ransom to you, you know.
Yeah. And they agree on 50-50, both knowing full well it ain't going 50-50.
Yeah.
And the pirate obviously planning on taking it all for himself.
Yeah. Okay, now we're getting to a hugely problematic joke now as well.
Yeah, so first of all, the pirates are ordering the Romans to get down in the galley and get down to the oars like everyone else. Which, you know, anyone else getting officers won't work vibes from that bit.
We are.
And then there's this where the one of the Numidian pirates decides he's going to be a drummer.
He's been said, I need someone to beat the drums so that for the oar strokes, like.
Yeah, and he's drawn in a way that's I don't particularly want to show it. It's your channel, but he looks very much like a character out of Mario when it's not accidental. Let's word it that way.
Yeah.
The stereotypical. I'm trying to think of the right way of wording this so you don't get flagged.
It's a little bit of he's beating the drums like a sort of like jazz player type, or you know, really.
Bongo thing.
It's kind of got the whole. He's a black man. They got to have rhythm, sort of.
Yeah, it's got that going on for it. It's also got bongo drums, and it's a black man, and the way he's drawn very hunky. Almost ape-like. It's not pleasant.
No, it's a. I mean, and it's. You think this book was drawn? This is the mid-90s. This book. There's no excuse for it now.
Yeah, I mean, there was a film that came out in the 90s that was called White Men Can't Jump.
Yeah,
but that was about basketball.
Yeah, and it was, I mean, it was a funny film. I actually quite enjoyed that film, but
yeah, but the title could have aged better.
Yeah,
it wasn't the most progressive of jokes on the planet. But yeah, so that's what goes on there. The Romans are forced to do that.
I think that was a really needless joke to have in this, to be honest. I just think because it didn't serve any purpose, that joke either.
It didn't serve any purpose because eventually he got sent back up to the crow's nest, and so because he was drumming too fast and Pegleg took over, which again is problematic in and of itself. Again, don't get me started on that one.
They do have the sort of stereotypical pirate there. One of them does have the wooden leg, doesn't he?
Yeah, stereotypical pirate with the wooden leg.
So, meanwhile, in the Admiral's galley, because obviously they're so they've got Getafix has got an idea of where to go now.
Yeah,
it's a distant island. What's it called? Atlantis.
Atlantis, he says. I thought it was legendary and sank beneath the waves long ago.
Yeah.
It did. But a group of offshore islands was left. The largest is still inhabited by the last Atlanteans, some thought to be the Canary Islands. Right.
Yeah.
Time to use your noodle, folks. Atlantis does not and has never existed. It was a Platonic thought experiment. It was never supposed to exist. It was a utopian thought experiment by Plato. Much like El Dorado. It was an idea that got carried on.
I mean, I think El Dorado's a little bit more different of a myth than
it's a little bit different, but in the way it doesn't actually exist. It's just an idea.
I mean, there's a bit of a theory that some of the sort of natives of South America told the Spanish about El Dorado to get them to bugger off and leave them alone, sort of. There is a hypothesis that that was a deliberate, like.
Whereas with again, there was a lot of greed around the stories of Atlantis. This idea of this amazing.
I mean, I have not read the Plato's Tale of Atlantis. Honestly, the only sort of thing I really know about it is that he depicts it as a him witnessing a conversation at a sort of dinner party with his master Socrates and a number of others. They tell this story.
He does that quite commonly. The way a lot of Plato's writings go, is discussions between Plato and Socrates. It's a standard way it's written. But that's why some versions you will find it, if you ever read it, will read like a story, and some will be laid out like a script. It depends on the translation.
Atlantis exists in the hearts and minds of the true believers, Jen. Wink.
Yeah, Atlantis it's an allegory on the hubris of nations. So it's not a real place. It's not a real place, and the reason we know it's not a real place is because when Plato made it up, he deliberately put it on the one part of the planet that they hadn't got to yet. He put it approximately in the Bermuda Triangle. Approximately. Like, that's where he posited it might possibly be.
Ring said he likes the theory that it was based on Minoan Crete. I think he accidentally said Mycenaean, but then corrected it to Minoan.
Say Mycenaean Crete. Are you sure you're not confusing that with the Iliad? So yeah, Atlantis is not a real place. I apologize. Please don't waste any money on diving lessons.
Atlantis real on the flat Earth.
Yeah. It's a great thought experiment, and I think it's in Symposium he writes about it.
I always loved the Futurama joke on this. One of the very early episodes of Futurama, they find find a city, like Fry finds a city under the sea, like populated by sort of mermaids, and he falls in love with a mermaid, and they've all got southern drawls, the mermaids are Southern Belle, and they said, and it turns out to be the lost ancient city of Atlanta.
Yeah, no, it's brilliant. No,
it turns out that for some reason like hundreds of years, but into the future for now or whatever, between the time Futurama set, the city of Atlanta moves to an island somewhere in the Atlantic and sinks, and
global warming for you folks.
And then you got like the Coca-Cola factories underwater and stuff like that,
Yeah, no, but Atlantis is not real. You can read about it. Sorry, it's not the Symposium. It's in the Republic.
It's Plato's Republic, is it?
It's Plato's Republic. Yeah, my apologies. That earlier.
I am sure I've read. I don't remember this, but
you will have read it because it's a fairly. There's another version, but the Republic is. I will give you a warning for anyone who's going to read it. It essentially tries to create something along the lines of what we would call a communist utopia.
Or it does totalitarian.
It does so by positing that in order for it to maintain itself, we must breed out human affection.
Yeah.
And there is a particular, and that people are born to their station. Even though there's a lot of eugenics and racism in it as well. Do be careful if you're going to read it.
I was going to say, even though Plato was from Athens, you get the feeling that he was more loved the Spartan sort of ideal of a statehood than.
Well, he did. He's known for it. He's known for it. He's, you know.
So I think he's trying, in a way, he was trying to take some of the better aspects of Athenian culture that he liked, and obviously the elements of Spartan culture that he liked into this republic. And democracy was the democratic system.
No, he claimed it was a meritocracy, but it wasn't.
It wasn't, but you also have to understand in the context of the time as well that Plato would have been around at the time of the end of the Peloponnesian War.
Yeah, the thing is, what you have to understand about Plato's Republic as well, it was never meant to be an ideal. It wasn't it was written, people call it a utopia, it's not, it's a dystopia. He fully acknowledges that in order to maintain a world that he posits would be beyond the realms of human decency.
Yeah.
He fully posits that it would devolve into a fascist state within something like 3 generations, if not sooner. And you would be required to brainwash your entire citizens.
Hobbes is not a fan at all. It's the worst of Plato, is aristocrat on coke.
But the thing is, when you read it, you do have to be careful, because he's not actually positing it as a valid concept. It's a thought experiment. He's saying, what if? And he's showing how the only way to do certain things is to do all the worst things. And it's really not a how-to guide for anyone.
I think you've got to understand the events that would have been an influence on Plato, that he'd seen, obviously, the golden age of Athenian democracy fail, and when it fell to Sparta. And I mean, you can argue really that Athens got very, very greedy and very arrogant and high on itself as a state. And it came, you know that old saying, pride comes before a fall. Kind of happened with Athens. And you also would have remembered that it would have been the Athenian the Senate, the Democratic Senate of Athens that executed his mentor. So you can probably in certain ways understand why Plato's a little disillusioned with Athenian democratic values, and
you also have to understand that the entire republic is a straw man that he builds up just to tear it down.
It
is not a this is how we should do it. It's a please don't do this. He basically, it's a straw man. It's a complete straw man. There's no two ways about it. That's what it is.
Anyway, okay.
But yeah, anyway.
Well, we realise Asterix goes down into the hull of the ship and looks through all the barrels, and then realises they've got no more magic potion.
They must have left it on the other ship.
Yeah, the Romans have got it. Slight problem. So he said, "Never mind. We'll manage without the voyage. It'll just take a little longer." So they go on. They find land. Obelix is up there. Lands ahoy! Lands ahoy! They have found Atlantis.
Yeah, Atlantis looks a lot like Egypt, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's it looks like a cross between like a Egypt and something out of some Disney fantasy.
Yeah,
you got all of the citizens all riding dolphins, and look at them, they're all children.
Yeah.
So there's an idea of this eternal youth in Atlantis.
Yeah, the idea was always with Atlantis of especially in more modern times, it's become this utopia. There's a lot of misunderstanding about what Atlantis was supposed to be.
And then you got like these children. Some of them are centaurs here. You got no one but children. Someone flying on the back of a swan here.
Yeah, and again, I can see why Ring likes the Minoan Crete theory, because
Yeah.
things like centaurs and, you know, birds big enough for a human being to fly on, that kind of thing, those
Yeah.
kind of myths originate in that area.
Mm.
Famously, you know, the Minotaur.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
that's one of the few sort of myths I it's one of the first Greek myths I was ever exposed to was, and it was it was the first two I was ever exposed to were, and they were in like the Ladybird books when I was a kid, and so I think I was
yeah,
the
so it would have
first one in my.
been,
I can
would it
tell
have
you
been
now that I was.
Daedalus or Icarus you were exposed to first?
No, Theseus was the first
Theseus,
story.
okay.
Was the
Okay.
first story, and it
Yeah, I
was in the
suppose
Ladybird
Daedalus is a
book.
bit adult for kids, explaining why he built
And
a.
I did become familiar with that one a little not long afterwards, that because of the whole Daedalus and Icarus. But
Yeah.
when I first heard it, I didn't realize that there was a kind of a connection between Minos of Crete and the whole that Daedalus built the
Yeah,
labyrinth.
Daedalus built the maze, and the reason Daedalus built the maze is because in a story that is previous to it within the context of the mythology, the queen fell in love with a bull because she pissed off the wrong deity.
I was familiar with the name Daedalus because of there used to be a naval base not far from where not too far from where I live, and my mum was stationed there when she was still a wren, and that was HMS Daedalus. It's no longer there, but it was well known for. But I used to go there a lot. I used to go there a lot as a kid because the Fleet Air Arms field gun team used to practice there. So, and they would open that up to the public every so often. And there was also because it was an airfield for the Fleet Air Arm. It used to be a big air. So that's the first time I heard of Daedalus. But no, it was Ladybird books on Greek mythology. So the first, it had two stories. It had story of Theseus and the Minotaur, and then the other one was Perseus and Medusa. Then they had a second book, which was the second book was 12 Labors of Hercules. And I'll give Ladybird their credit; they actually called him Heracles in that. I'll give them their credit. And then what was the other one? Oh, it's Jason and the Golden Fleece.
Jason and the Golden Fleece, yeah.
So standard, first myths.
Fairly standard myths that everyone's vaguely aware of. Probably the tamest of the myths you can get away with. I think they're probably the only 4 stories in Greek mythology that don't have Zeus in them in a large role, and there's a reason for that.
Zeus is alluded to in some of those stories. So
yeah, obviously he's the father of Heracles, but otherwise,
and I believe allegedly the real father of Theseus as well. Although Aegeus is officially his father,
Zeus. I don't know. The thing with Zeus is he has a bit of a reputation.
Yeah.
And you can kind of see why the Judeo-Christian deity has a reputation of going after young girls who are magically pregnant. He got it from Zeus.
Zeus is
he's a great excuse.
Zeus
came to me in the form of a swan.
I'm trying to remember
came to me in the night.
How many of these Greek heroes though were illegitimate offspring of Zeus? Theseus possibly, Perseus.
I kind of just assume that anyone who's a demigod, if they're not Hector, they're related to Zeus somehow.
Yeah.
Because Hector, not Hector,
Achilles.
Aeneas famously is the son of Aphrodite or Venus. But other than that, most of them are Zeus's. It's just assume they're Zeus's unless you're told otherwise.
Okay.
They're either children of Zeus or they came from Zeus somehow.
Okay.
So yeah. So.
Okay, so we better get back to this. Children, tell us what the the ruler of this island, and this is our famous priest, absolutely fabulous.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
So they're taking.
And
he seems to be the only adult in the place.
Yeah, he seems to be the only adult in the place. Yeah, and they've got flying cows, and they need milk for all these children, Asterix.
Yeah.
That's not what he meant, get a fix.
There's a lot of some very large fruit bowl there. If only there was they had flying wild boar.
Yeah. Pigs will fly.
There's a joke in this. Did you watch the 12 Tasks of Asterix? I think I'm trying to remember that the Islands of Pleasure with the priestesses that would cater to, should we say, all the men's needs. Where they'd be treated like gods, waited on hands and foot by these very lovely priestesses, and who you can imagine probably catered to other needs as well.
Yeah.
And then the whole thing was that they had to prove that they could endure this, and the breaking point for Obelix is what it was. Well, I'm hungry. He says we have ambrosia and nectar, the food of the god. What? No wild boar, and you call this the Islands of Pleasure?
Yeah.
So
yeah, this also gives me a little bit sort of Gulliver's Travels vibes with the size of it and the different stuff as well. So they've discovered eternal youth on Atlantis.
They're wanting to know if he can help out Obelix, though.
But they don't know how to make people older.
Yeah, so there's got a bit of a problem. They come all this way for nothing, unfortunately. However, the escaped slaves want to stay, and they've been welcome to stay in Atlantis. I won't put the trigger because I think we're somewhat getting I think we're near the end of all the bad racial.
But yeah, we've got they're all saying they're gonna they're saying their goodbyes here.
Yeah.
And then Asterix get to fix an Obelix back on the ship.
So and
they kind of
hold on.
Home.
Now I'm gonna have to put the banner up again. I've just seen.
Yeah, no, I want to comment on this comment from Get a Fix. This is a direct reference to the Odyssey. Relying on the kindness of Aeolus to get us home. This is one of the things Odysseus goes through in the Odyssey. He lands on an island and Aeolus gives him a bag of wind and tells him not to open it until he can see Ithaca.
Yeah.
But his crew get hold of it when he's asleep and release it all at once, and they get blown offshore.
Fun fact. Can I just say, I don't know what Odysseus's bloody problem was, because I sailed to Ithaca in a couple of hours.
Poor navigation.
Yeah.
After 10 years of war,
No, I don't know if I told you this, Noodle. I went on a sailing holiday in the Ionian when I was 16 with my parents, and we were based on Kefalonia. But of course, Ithaca is an island that's not far from Kefalonia. We did sail to Ithaca.
Yeah. So Ithaca's not that far, especially when you consider
I think Ithaki, I think, is the proper Greek name for it.
I mean, if you accept that they have found Troy, if you accept that Troy, first, there's a lot of assumptions in that comment. First of all, you've got to accept that Troy was real.
Yeah.
Then you've got to accept that the war happened. Then you've got to accept it's where they say it is. But if you accept all of those things, it's really not a long voyage from Troy to Ithaca at all.
Yeah, Chad, I know it depends on the winds. I was just being a little facetious with that comment, but because there is the what's the name of the archaeologist? Schliemann, was it, who found
who
quote
found
unquote Troy? But you get Schliemann definitely jumped to a lot of conclusions in his archaeological digs,
and some of it we found was faked later as well.
Yeah. Well, he found that famous plate, didn't he, in Mycenae or whatever, and he believed that he said the famous quote, "I've gazed on the face of Agamemnon,"
Yeah.
Famous quote.
And they've looked at it, and from the site, they believe that there was some sort of fire there. There's melted like rocks and things that look like a massive fire. There's arrowheads there. There's various things there. But for the evidence that's there, for me, and this is my personal opinion, by all means, research it yourself and look into it. My personal opinion is the evidence that they have that Troy is where they say it is no better than the evidence I could probably put together in order to claim that Edinburgh Castle is Hogwarts. It's in about the right area. It's on a hill, and it's got a lake.
I will say that there is a public school in Edinburgh that looks very much like the depiction of Hogwarts, and I've been for. Let's just say I know it's well known where she got some of her ideas from. If you walk around Edinburgh if you walk around from Greyfriars Kirkyard, you'll see the graves of certain characters you might recognise from Harry Potter. Tom Riddle was buried there, and I think there's a Cedric Diggory buried there as well.
Yeah, there's a Cedric Diggory and a Tom Riddle at Greyfriars. Yeah.
There's some others, but I mean the famous. I mean, but the fact Greyfriars, the most famous grave, and there is the one of the dog.
Bobby, Greyfriars Bobby.
Yeah, this I know, but this if you actually look, I know we're going off topic here, but you actually look at some of the history of that. There's a little some hints of skullduggery with that, because that little dog became quite famous in its own lifetime.
Yeah,
and a little bit of a tourist attraction.
Yeah, I mean,
to the
it's
point
a cute.
that they to the point
but
where
it's
they believe the original dog died, and it's a good suggestion that they may have replaced it with another dog for a little while to keep a good thing going. So we don't know that for certain. It's apparently the little dog did become a bit of a celebrity in its own lifetime.
Yeah. So it's one of those things, and to be fair, a lot of cemeteries do have dogs that the groundskeeper owns that it could very well have been.
That's true. Hops as well. Yeah.
It's a stereotypical hero's journey. Is this whole thing? But that was AOLS, and we've got a bit off topic.
Should we get back and to try and finish this book? We've only got a few more pages left, I think. I've put the trigger warning up because we still got a few more pictures that I thought we were done with them, but
so off they go. They'd have expected their friends to come see them off, and their friends have, but not in the guise they were expecting.
Meanwhile, the pirates, remember, they've got the Romans there. They've found land. This is Rome, sweet Rome.
Yeah.
And
what they're about to do.
So the two Romans they've got doing the rowing for them, the admirals there, and Crustaceus and Nautilus. They decide to get them a drink, and of course, what do they end up drinking?
The magic potion.
Yeah.
Of course, they beat the pirates up.
Yeah.
3 men overboard and take the ship back. And now Crustaceus is having visions of getting Caesar underfoot.
I'll tell you what, they all seem to have this thing, don't they? If they can get hold of this is a repeated theme in Asterix with these Romans. If they get this idea that they can get the magic potion for themselves, the first thing they're going to do is take Caesar down.
The thing is, this is probably accurate.
Yeah, I mean,
Caesar
how many?
Not well liked by the elites.
Caesar was not well liked, but even when you get a bit further on into the age of the emperors and how many Roman emperors met sticky ends later on as well?
And I think it's just that this is set in Caesar's time, so Caesar's the one who gets the brunt of it. But if any, there was no such thing as an orderly transition of power in ancient Rome. Anyone who tries to tell you otherwise is a liar. I
suppose it happened, but it was more often than not there was a civil war or something.
It's not. We suppose it's happened. It's even when it seems to go smoothly. That's only because 24 or more plotters had already been murdered in their beds. Ancient Rome was cutthroat politically.
Yeah.
Everyone was scrambling to the top up the greasy pole, and they didn't care who they stepped on to get there. The political figures famously sell out their own mothers, their own fathers, their own children, anything to get a leg up. Everyone wanted that top spot, and it was up for grabs. Whoever could come out on top.
Now, you get the the two galleys spot one another. We can't. So Asterix still says he's got a little bit of his own potion left. So they come in there. He flies onto the ship, and he's just about to drink some potion of his own. And they throw they hit him with a catapult and knocks they knock Asterix's Gordon magic potion overboard. So
now
in with the sharks. So now it's the Romans come aboard, and remember that they've had some magic potion.
Yeah.
And Obelix is
throw the girl with the yellow whiskers overboard, and poor Obelix fighting to try there and screaming.
Obelix is now. Do you let me see now? I'm getting vibes of the Incredible Hulk here.
Yeah, very Incredible Hulk vibes going on here. Desperation. It's
like he's getting angry. Obelix is getting angry and irritated. Suddenly, he's powering up. The only thing he doesn't do is turn green here.
Yeah, pretty much. He's very, they must be put under extreme stress to mutate. Incredible.
And the fact that you see him here and he grows up and he's in like really tight shorts now because he's outgrown them. This is a very clear clearly a Hulk Hulk reference.
Even the ship's turned green. Look at the front, and the Romans jumping off crying for his mummy.
Yeah.
The Romans don't believe anyone will ever believe this. They've salvaged the god. The sharks got a mouthful of Getafix's clothes, but didn't get him. Luckily,
got the gourd.
He took a mouthful of potion.
Yeah, which helps Asterix revive, and Obelix is back to being Obelix.
Yeah,
and a little while later, he gets some clothes his own size again.
Yeah, he gets his own clothes back. To go.
Meanwhile, the admirals, the two Romans, are taken off, and they come down there, and it seems like Crustaceus has done the same crap Obelix has done.
Yeah, he's turned to stone.
He's overdosed on the magic potion.
Yeah.
But he said he's turned to stone. This must be the word. But now I can take Caesar back his galley on my own. He'll promote me
to admiral at least.
Yeah. And look, Captain.
Flying the pirates and saying,
yeah, they fly the Jolly Roger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fire at will, essentially. And abandoned ship.
Yeah, that's to be honest, I don't think actual Jolly Rogers were a thing until about the 18th century.
Oh no, definitely not. No.
And that's the most famous one is the Skull and Crossbone. But there's each pirate captain tended to have their own version of the Jolly Roger. I think the most famous one, the Skull and Crossbones. I think that was Bartholomew Roberts one.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Roberts, yeah.
I don't.
But
I'm trying to remember.
The thing is, as well, with the with pirates, you could just take your flag down and sail on plain sails, and that would make you a pirate because you weren't flying a flag.
Yeah, well, I think technically, yeah. I mean, they were an intimidation technique. I think now, don't quote me on this. I may be wrong about this, but I think technically you could still get in trouble. If you're sailing in British waters, at least, for flying a Jolly Roger. Theoretically, I think you could still get in trouble for that.
Theoretically, you can, although there are certain allowances made for tourism purposes.
Yeah.
I know there's a boat that sails out of Bridlington Harbour that flies the Jolly Roger, and it's all decked out to look like a pirate ship. But you're not going to mistake that thing for anything but a tourist attraction.
Yeah,
that thing is not seaworthy to go more than about 2 miles out to sea.
Generally, like even little sailboats or whatever, when they're going,
it's a pleasure cruise ship. It's not a
even the yachts or whatever are supposed to fly a red ensign. But in Britain anyway, I mean, obviously some countries it's just just the national flag. But
I mean, I don't know if anyone knows what the Yorkshire coastline looks at all, but the Jolly Roger out of Bridlington Harbour sails out of Bridlington Harbour up to Flamborough Head, which is about an hour. You can do it in 50 minutes with a following wind. Turns around and comes back. That's all it is. It's a pleasure cruise up the coast.
Chad says flags are a serious business at sea, but small boats usually get a pass. Yeah, so I mean, generally, if you're a small boat or something, you're just going out for a sail in the Solent and you fly a Jolly Roger, you could technically get into trouble for it, but you're probably at worst going to get a lot of slap on the wrist and warns, please don't fly that.
Yeah, don't do that again. Naughty.
Anyway, we're getting. Should we finish? We took another sidetrack here.
So here we go. Those who just fired on the boat have realised that it's Nautilus.
Yeah.
And they brought the statue. I like this. It's the decadent Roman style of statues wearing clothes.
Yeah.
Yes, actually it is.
And they've ended up sinking Caesar's own galley, his own personal galley.
Yeah. Just for the record, the Greeks generally made sculptures starkers. And the Romans added togas because the toga virilis was the symbol of Roman citizenship. Thing, if you could wear the toga virilis, that was your passport.
Meanwhile,
the closest thing with if you imagine livery laws in the medieval period, in a modern context, the best way I can describe the laws around who was allowed to wear the toga virilis and how is probably something like American stolen valor rules.
I think now I can get rid of this banner. I think we're done with the problem with the problematic panels. Okay, so.
But basically, your life was on the line if you were caught wearing a toga in ancient Rome and you weren't a citizen.
Okay. Let's quickly finish off then because we've got a couple more pages and we're done. So meanwhile, whilst this is going on, Asterix, Obelix, and Getafix are racing back to the village.
But they
And the
decide they're going to
Admiral's galley comes in.
aquarium.
Yeah, they decide that they're gonna row right inland and go straight through the camp, destroying it.
Yeah.
And Obelix is, "Yoo-hoo, told you I'd be back when I was big again and just well covered." And basically, and now, meanwhile, you get back to Rome here in memory of the silliest sausage in Rome. The Admiral here has been put as a statue in the middle of the amphitheater.
Apparently, he arrived back after the Christians took over. Although it's a children's book, so we can forgive that little anachronism.
Yeah.
So they've put the statue of him in the arena because Caesar has a feeling that things might change and the statue might change.
And Cleopatra's there with him. "I don't understand you, Caesar." It says, "Your admiral is responsible for losing your galley, and you put up a statue to him right in the middle of the arena." He says, "The lions don't eat much granite. It's true, but nowadays you never know. So something tells me that it might change. That might change someday."
And Cleo thinks Caesar's losing it.
Caesar knows what's happened. So there's the kind of feeling here that even if he turns back, I mean, this is a little weird because this is actually the closest you really see to a character being depicted as being killed, really, in Asterix.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, even if he turns back one day, he's going to be in the arena with the lions.
Yeah.
Which is the thing in these, that Caesar's always his go-to threat in these books, is that throw you to the lions.
So he's just left the statue there. Because if the statue changes, the lions get a meal.
And we get our standard sort of final panel.
Obelix making up for lost time eating.
Yeah. Cacophonix tied up and gagged to the tree to stop him singing.
And the mutineers found asylum in Atlantis. And
another land of liberty, and the chiefs, and he said, "The only land of liberty I know is right under my feet, dear vital statistics." So, okay, that wasn't a bad one. I mean, let's let me get rid of the screen now. Okay. Opinions on this one, Noodle. There was the problems, obviously, with the cartoons that we can't get around that.
Racist depictions and art style aside, it's a fair cop, this one. This one's a nice story. It gives us all of our different characters. It's got some nice historical nods in there, some nice humour. Nothing laugh out loud funny, but it's steady. Some of it feels a little bit almost apologetic, given the last few.
I gotta say, after the last book we did, there was obviously there's the problems with this. The problem is the racist jokes in this, and those depictions, which are, and once again, in the description for this, there's a link to a pretty good New York Times article that I recommend people go and read about confronting racism in some certain old comics and how to best explain them. Only reason myself and Noodle have gone over this at great length in many of these streams, and I always say, if you want our positions on this, go back to the opening 10 minutes of Asterix the Gladiator. We talk about this at some length.
We do.
I would say after Asterix and the Secret Weapon, despite its issues, this was a palate cleanser compared to that one.
It was definitely a palate cleanser. It's definitely, I think this one, definitely the good outweighs the bad in this one. I think this one, I was probably more harsh about the problematic aspects of it because it's followed on from Asterix and the Secret Weapon. And I will say, going forward from Asterix and the Secret Weapon, I am going to be more harsh about the racial and ableist depictions.
Well, the thing
just
is,
because
we are
my
getting into
master, my goodwill got spent on that one.
Yeah, and to be honest as well, the first book we covered was written in 1961. Okay, we're into the 90s here. Okay, we're soon going to be into the 2000s.
Yeah. There is no longer an excuse. There was barely an excuse in the 60s. There sure as hell wasn't one by the 90s.
Yeah, and we're getting to so, and I mean, we're getting to some obviously where there's some I'm just we're up, so I'm just having a little look here. I think our next book was from 2001. It's called Asterix and the Actress.
Asterix and the Actress.
Yep. Apparently, Pompey the Great is coming up in this, I think. Somewhere. So I believe that's the next one, and that's from 2001. And I do believe we've got a couple of annuals of some short stories coming up in the near future as well.
Yeah,
which are a collection of some of the older, like Goscinny and Uderzo stories from before they started doing the annuals, I think. Most, but
yeah. I've just quickly read the plot for next week.
Mm-hmm.
It has potential to be potentially problematic. It also has potential to be quite good. So we will see.
We'll see. Yeah, well, generally, as it's your turn to host, you know it's going to be problematic.
Yeah.
Noodle seems to get all the bad ones, so just saying.
Yeah.
That was not planned, by the way, when we started this. That was not planned.
It wasn't. To be honest, I think,
all the worst controversial ones.
I think the stars aligned for me to get the controversial ones to prevent me going too much into a hissy fit on your channel.
Yeah. Well, mind you, I think in the Secret Weapon, I think I got a little more animated than even you got on that one, because I really went off on one.
Yeah.
Okay. As for what we're doing next, Ring, I don't know if you want to put in the chat, is Media Musings a go ahead or not today? Because we were waiting to hear from Ring on that one.
And yes, I think we have established Adozo's Gaulish name in the chat as well.
Who's put that? Sorry.
Very
problematic. Ring. That's you win the internet.
You win.
Yeah.
So yeah, Ring. Have we got Media Musings? Are we on?
Yeah, Ring's having some internet issues, so we're looking to. So we're kind of looking. Just yes or no is Media Musings a go ahead. Ring says internet is still down. I guess in about after we finish this one, give me 15-20 minutes or so. I might do a post stream or post Asterix, just to hang out or something in place of Media Musings. Anyone wants to jump into that, give us a shout. So that we'll do that, and I'll do that in about 15-20 minutes. By the time, just give ourselves, we can both have a little stretch and smoke and all that stuff, and then I'll come back and set that up. So say 20 minutes to half an hour tops.
Do you want to go at 50:30 so we've got time to sort of grab snacks and things?
Okay, so it's 3 p.m. So we'll say 30 minutes. I'm just gonna do like a post Asterix hangout kind of thing. Anyone wants to come in, DM me on Twitter or something. It's not a post coitus stream, Jen. Damn it!
There's been no coitus. Damn it, Jen.
Damn it, Jen.
So yeah.
So yeah, hit us up if anyone wants to jump in on that one. Yeah, I'm a little. Obviously, we're all think we're all a little bit gutted about Media Musings this week because we were looking forward to Deadpool. So
that gives us something to look forward to next week. Speaking of things to look forward to, any other plans coming up?
Okay, yeah. First of all, you yourself, what have you got go? Because you started doing some gaming streams now, haven't you?
I have. A few of you have noticed and been out to support me doing my gaming streams with Death Stranding, and I think I finally figured out which button to make myself move forward. So we're getting there slowly. You can join me on Mondays for that. It's usually Monday evening times. I normally tweet out about it a couple of hours before I go. So keep an eye out for that if you want to watch me try and figure out how computer games work in the 21st century, because I'm still getting my head around that. It's not meant to be a perfect playthrough. That's not the point. The point is to have a laugh and a giggle at me and see me, and see someone who's not really into games trying to play a game. So by all means, come and join me if you want to point and laugh at me. I point and laugh at me, so you're perfectly welcome to join me there. And then it will be next week on my channel. We'll be doing the next Asterix.
Yeah. So we're fingers crossed it's not going to be too bad.
As Jen is putting their coffee. Oh yes, I have a coffee. Thank you for sharing the link there. If anyone would like to donate, I very much appreciate it.
I was looking for your Ko-fi for my description earlier, and I couldn't find it. So I know it's been in the. I know it's been in some of the.
Yeah. So it is there. If you would like to donate, I very much appreciate it. Any ideas for games or anything you want to see me have a go at playing? Give me a shout. I mean, my tagline for these games is pretty much, watch me fumble foots and struggle, but most snakes don't even have fingers, so I'm not doing too badly.
Okay.
Have a laugh. What about yourself?
Okay. Well, obviously, as I said, 30 minutes time, we're going to be back here. Other than that, now I'm looking for a subject for another Twitter stream. May possibly do that this coming Thursday. That what's her name? Is it Lauren Bobert or Bobet? She's looking like she's another representative who's like a QAnon nut who I think could be I'm trying to decide between her and David Silverman right now as to who to do next if I do any more of these Twitter streams. The good thing about Twitter is there's a big source of idiocy with certain people. Although I said Silverman, I'm sure might be getting an episode of his own pretty soon. So
because you can't tweet doesn't mean you should tweet.
Yeah, I'm on my. If I can this week, I hope to do it sometime this week. For those of you who follow me on Patreon, I've just started a thing where I am reading through every single one of Arthur Conan Doyle's Sherlock Holmes stories. I've done a study in Scarlet. So we'll be doing the next story. I'm hoping to read through that this week. I kind of realized doing it that I probably need to write some bullet points down and formulate it a bit better. But I'm doing that on my Patreon at the moment, doing reviews of Sherlock Holmes story and talking through some of the characters and stuff. So we'll see how that goes. So other than that, Noodle, got a tagline?
As always from me, take care, be good. If you can't be good, use your noodle.
And take care from me, and may all of your stains be large ones. See you later.